This is LBC with Sheila Fogarty.
Now, all this week, I'm going to be carrying out a special report about getting into teaching with Get Into Teaching. Whether you've recently graduated or are looking for a change in career, teaching can be a great way to make your degree, your skills and your knowledge really count. I'll be talking to a range of guests all week about the difference that great teachers can make and how rewarding a career it can be. This afternoon, I'm joined by Mr Ismail. After landing his dream role as a solicitor at a top city law firm, he changed career completely 10 years ago and became a teacher. He's now principal of the Newham Collegiate Sixth Form. I spoke to him earlier and asked him what was the most rewarding thing about being a teacher.
For me, there are two parts that make teaching really interesting and something that I get up in the morning, want to do every single day. And the first part is the actual bit in the classroom where you get to inspire young people and see their faces with awe and wonder when you are teaching them something quite difficult or they understand a very difficult concept. So there is that part of it which is really interesting and engaging for me. But there's also the leadership part of it, which was always really my interest when I left law, was to sort of set up a school that did things a bit differently and try to almost break the pernicious link between disadvantaged demographics and destination. And I think for me it's about organising a curriculum, inspiring teachers as well together so we can have a collective efficacy around what we actually want. And our vision about the NCS is about inspiring young people to do what inspires them so they make a positive and lasting contribution to society.
And to put a little bit of what you just said into plainer English about disadvantage and destination, it's something that a lot of politicians talk about a lot of the time, that where you are from, your background, the colour of your skin should not dictate the choices you can make about where you end up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on the whole, that's absolutely right. We talk about equality of opportunity. And I think what we see with education, it is the vehicle with which people can move up, climb the social ladder and achieve fantastic things. And I think, my parents are migrants to this country and I've had the benefit of having a first-class education, going to university and working for one of the best city law firms in the country. And I think that's what education can do for people. But what we need to get right in schools is to the academic rigour and scholarship, where we constantly hold young people, regardless of whether they're from a disadvantaged background, to the highest possible standards. And whilst Newham, where I teach, is a poverty-stricken borough, there isn't a poverty of ambition amongst the young people and their families.
Poverty is about a lot more than money, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's about giving them that social and cultural capital, telling them every day that it's possible for them.
Training. It's daily training,
absolutely.
Isn't it?
And I think having the highest expectations, I think we still expect too little of our young people who may come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And I'm inspired every day by seeing the young people that I have in my school and the heights that they've managed to achieve.
And what prompted you to make such a big career change, big leap from one to the other?
Yeah, I sort of have rose-tinted glasses on. I sort of, went to university, went and worked in the city law firm and believed in this idea of sort of meritocracy. If you work really hard, you can get there. And I think what I realised when I went into city law firms was, yes, there was that, you had to have that, but it's also the contacts that your family has and the links that you can make and the networking. And if you come from a family background that doesn't have that, then you're at a disadvantage, even though you might be bright. So I think it was, for me, the realisation that, yes, academics are really important, but it's also the soft skills that are extremely important when you get into the workplace. It's also the exposure, being able to embellish your CV that young people from private schools are able to do, and they're swapping work placements between their families. If you're from a family that doesn't have those links or those advantages, you're never going to be able to do that. So I think for me, it's not just about providing the academic rigour. We send kids to Abu Dhabi for law work placements. We send kids to Washington and New York. My old law firm, Norton Rose, we've been working hand in glove for the last year.
They're like, here he is again.
Yeah,
we can't shake him off.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the advantages. You end up having all these links with people who
and
are
you're
now
using those connections on behalf of those children.
Absolutely, because I didn't have those connections, and I was fortunate enough to get through, and now I have those connections. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to tap into that and give our young people an advantage that they typically won't have.
And are you conscious, it's not just about you, it's about all of the staff and the pupils and the parents as well, of course, but are you conscious that because of your background, because your parents are migrants, because of the colour of your skin, if I may, those children have just at their disposal on a daily basis a great role model if they choose to see it that way? Yeah,
well, I think it's very difficult for a student to say to me, you don't understand my background, because that's completely nonsense. I was from the same, I work in the borough that I grew up in. I live a stone throw away, so I'm part of the community. So I think that has an advantage of seeing a head teacher who is from an Asian background, whose parents are migrants into this country, to say that it's possible for you to do that, who's probably gone to places that they want to aspire to, which are law firms, but then has made the decision to come back to serve a community that I grew up in. And I think that sends a strong signal to both the students that our communities are important to us, and we should try to serve them as much as we and as best as we can.
It's interesting that you see it as service.
Yeah, I do see it as service. I think we have an obligation to our communities, and especially ones where we live in deprived communities, to really do as much as we can to extend the ladder downwards and help everyone reach the echelons that some of us have had the privilege and luck to get to. And I do think it's quite fortunate that sometimes I look back and I think I ended up at Norton Rose Fulbright from a background that I come from. That's not really what happens. Not bad going. But it shouldn't be that way. If you're academic and you're bright, you should have that opportunity to do that.
And what would you say it takes? It will be different in every case, but what does it take to make a good teacher, a teacher that because we've all got them. We've all got teachers that we will never forget, and we've all got teachers we'd quite like to forget. But what is it that makes a teacher somebody unforgettable to a student?
I think, when it's all done and dusted, yes, the academic rigour, the deep subject knowledge, it's the relationships that you have with young people on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's those conversations that you don't see where a young person may be struggling or have the dark nights of the soul, questioning their ability. And
family difficulties.
Lots of stuff. Yeah. But there is that person, the adult in their life, who, yes, they teaches them the academic side of it and helps them pass exams, but has that understanding of the young person and can pick them up when they're down. I think ultimately that empathy, but also holding them to the highest standards at all times, and never using any of that as an excuse. I think that's the blend that you need to get to be a high quality teacher.
I chatted actually to Mr Ismail afterwards when we left the studio, and there is a man who was born to be a teacher, it seemed to me.